Hi, this is Veronica with Sew It Seams, and welcome back to my studio. Today we are going to be working on block H-7 from the Dear Jane quilt. This is also called a Bennington Star. For my block today, I am going to be using this blue fabric for my focus fabric, and for my background fabric, this muslin. Let's take a look at the breakdown of this block. When we're looking at the block, of course, this center is going to be pretty simple. It's just a square out of the foundation fabric. It's a 9 patch, so all of these are the same size. But these little sections here, these are basically quarter square triangles. So what I'm going to be doing is making quarter square triangles for these 4 blocks here. Then we have our foundation fabric with a square in the middle, and the muslin or the background fabric for each of these 4 corner squares. And then with our focus fabric, the strips for the outer border. So let's look at a couple of measurements. When we look at our solid squares here, these all measure 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to be cutting my fabric 1 3/4 inch, and my center out of the focus fabric 1 3/4 inch. Now to make these half square triangles, what I'm going to do is cut squares that are 2 1/2 inches. I'm going to cut 2 squares out of my muslin background and 2 squares out of my blue focus fabric. And here are the 4 muslin fabrics of 1 3/4 inch and my focus fabric of 1 3/4 inch. And then we have 2 each of 2 1/2 inches of the muslin and the focus fabric to create our half square triangles. So right now we're going to set these to the side, and we're going to work on making the half square triangle. Let's work with one block here. What you want to do is draw a line from corner to corner. Just one. We're making a half square triangle. I accidentally drew 2 lines, but we just need one line corner to corner. That is actually going to be your cutting line. So what you're going to do is put right sides together of your fabric. So your focus fabric and your background fabric, right sides together, and you're going to stitch at 1/4 inch on either side of that line. And what this is going to do is create a half square triangle. Here's my first one sewn. Going to cut that apart right on that center line. And then when you open it up, there's your half square triangle. So we're going to press these to the dark side. That's where your seams want to be. Press them both to the dark side. And we have these both pressed. So now we're going to put these 2 together, but we're going to have opposite sides so that the seam butts up against each other. So we're going to make sure to match our focus fabric with our background and our background with our focus fabric. So we put them right sides together, lining that up, lining up the corners, and making sure that seam is butt up right against each other. Once again, we're going to draw another line from corner to corner. That is the cutting line. I am going to draw my stitching line at 1/4 inch since I am doing this by hand. That just helps keep me on track. Okay, and now this is ready for me to stitch on either one of those seam lines. I've now stitched both of my seams on either side. So now we cut right on that line. This is a great block to do on the machine if you are doing these by machine. It works well on with hand piecing too. And when we open it up, there is that little hourglass block. We need to have 4 of those, so this one unit made 2 of them. My other pair of squares will make 2 more. So you're going to follow the same method for the next 2. So now I'm going to press these 2 and I'm going to trim them to 1 3/4 inches. We now have the hourglass blocks made, so let's lay this block out. The very center is our main fabric square, and the corners will have these muslin pieces. And then we place our hourglasses. Now when we're putting our hourglass blocks, we need to make sure that each one is turned so that the muslin or the background fabric is against your main fabric. You don't want to have it oriented this way because that will create a very different look. So we make sure that it is all in this way. Now, we're just going to sew these all together like a 9 patch. And here is the center of the block all pressed and ready to have the outer borders sewn on. Now I trimmed up my block a little bit to neaten up the edges, and it now currently measures just over 4 1/4 inches. Now I'm going to cut the blue strips for the border, and I can cut them 3/4 inch wide, and that will give me enough room. But if you want just a little bit more leeway for being able to trim the block, then you can cut them 1 inch wide. I will cut my strips the length of my block, actually a little bit longer, so that I can just trim it to size. So for 2 sides, I'm going to be cutting my strips 3/4 inch wide by 4 1/2 inches long. And then I will cut 2 other strips for the other sides that will be 3/4 inch wide, but this time about 5 1/4 inches long, and that'll give me enough leeway for being able to trim the block to the 5 inches that we need. So let's cut some strips. The strips are now cut, so first we're going to sew these side ones on and press and trim, and then sew these 2 on and press and trim, and then we'll have a finished block. And there is our finished block. It's all pressed and trimmed, and I really love the blue fabric on this one. It's just so cute. I hope you enjoyed following along as I made block H-7, also called Bennington Star, from the Dear Jane quilt book. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below, or you can send me an email at sewitseamscreations@outlook.com. If you enjoyed this video and like to see more, go ahead and give this one a thumbs up. You can also like and subscribe. And if you click this notification bell, then you'll be notified each time I upload a video, which is every Monday. This is Veronica Johnson with Sew It Seams, and I'll see you next time.